Hi guys, Phil Graham here from Diabetic Muscle and Fitness.com. I want to share with you 3 of the biggest reasons why it's difficult for someone living with diabetes to get shredded and lean. Now, it doesn't matter whether your goal's to step on stage, whether it's to do a photo shoot for a magazine, or just to get freaky lean for going on holidays. If you have diabetes, it can sometimes be a little bit more difficult than those people without diabetes. And let me discuss some of the reasons why. So reason 1, the use of diabetes drugs. In particular, use injectable insulin. Every drug has its side effects. Now, if you're type 1, you will rely on injectable insulin for the rest of your life. If you are on the more serious stages of type 2 progression, you will most definitely need insulin to help you deal with your condition. Now, with using those particular drugs, one of the major side effects of them is hypoglycemia. So if we miscalculate a dose, if we over-administer insulin, it's very easy to drive our blood glucose levels ultra low, meaning that there's no glucose in the blood, and as a result of that we get a host of complications. Dizziness, lightheadedness, some people faint. We also get a lack of fuel to the brain. We also get a lack of fuel to other cells and tissues within the body. And as a result of that, performance is impaired. So if you're trying to train through hypoglycemia, you will know fine and well that it's extremely difficult to concentrate, which dramatically increases your chances of injury. So if you're about to do a large compound lift, for example, it's not the best kind of situation to be walking out with a heavy bar of squats or a massive deadlift if your blood sugar is ultra low. Secondly as well, whenever we look at the whole paradigm of hypoglycemia, we have to consider that we need to consume extra calories to bring us out of that state. Now, whenever you have a hypoglycemic episode, sometimes people confuse that with hunger. And whatever's available at the time, depending what's in your cupboards within your house or your kitchen, will ultimately dictate how many calories you consume. So if I'm going to treat a hypoglycemia correctly, I will use a small amount of liquid glucose, which is just pure carbohydrate, and I will have that, and that will bring my blood glucose very quick. But on the other hand, if I'm out, for example, or in the house and I don't have that, and there's a chocolate cake or biscuits or some kind of bread, we're going to accumulate a lot of calories from different sources. We're going to accumulate them from protein, we're going to accumulate them from fat. So as you can see, if we're taking hypos all the time due to lack of control, then we're going to end up consuming an awful lot more calories than expected. And what tends to happen with people with diabetes, especially the clients that I work with and all the members on Diabetic Muscle and Fitness.com, is there are reports of people taking multiple hypos and treat these hypoglycemic episodes with unwanted calories. And as a result of that, they are inevitably going to limit their ability to get lean, limit their ability to maximize fat loss. So, in order to correct this, what we need to do is ensure that we have maximum control of our blood glucose. That we're using our blood glucose testing meters, that we're using our CGMs, continuous glucose meters, all the time to try and identify patterns of when we go low. And when we go low, that we learn to identify it and treat it head on. Whether we can time in another meal with that hypoglycemia to avoid us consuming extra food, whether we can just learn from it as a one-off. Maybe we can treat that with various different ways. For example, we can actually treat a hypoglycemia in certain circumstances with a small bout of high-intensity cardio, because high-intensity exercise drives up all the counter-regulatory hormones such as cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine, and all these things that cause the liver to pump out glucose. So you'll sometimes have noticed that whenever you weight train. So that's a certain strategy for treating a hypo. And then obviously we have food. So like I said, keeping the food options nice and clear with pure glucose to avoid the consumption of extra calories. Reason number 2 is hyperglycemia. Hyperglycemia is absolutely devastating towards muscle building and fat loss efforts. Now, let's look at the reasons why. Well, first of all, hyperglycemia reduces protein synthesis and increases protein breakdown. Now, we know that muscle mass or lean body mass is one of the chief determinants of how many calories we burn at rest. Muscle tissue also acts as a storage house for glucose. So whenever we weight train, we increase the capacity of that storage warehouse, which can in effect help improve glycemic control. So if we're reducing one of the tissues in our bodies that burns calories at rest, if we're reducing our storage tank of glucose, then we're going to be at an extreme disadvantage from a fat loss perspective. We also have to look at the consideration of losing muscle mass is going to make us weaker. And as a result of that, whenever we go to weight train, we're not going to be able to burn as much energy during the session, which is called exercise thermogenesis. And as a result of that, we're not going to be able to burn as much calories there and then and afterwards. So that can all have devastating effects for fat loss and really slow progress down. So it's absolutely essential that you maximize and improve your blood glucose control in and around training and for the 23 hours outside of that 1 hour training window. It's very important that you look at your notes, you record your data, you look at your CGM, your blood testing meter, and again, not just looking at the one reading on the blood testing meter, but looking at the average readings, because that's going to give you a good representation of how good your control has been over a day. HbA1c is also a very valid measure to look at because it gives an average over 6 months, and as a result of that, it can give you a good idea whether or not you've spent the bulk of your time in an anabolic environment, if the HbA1c was relatively good, or in a catabolic environment where muscle tissue breakdown was highly likely. So these are great measures to look at, and if you're not hitting those ranges, make an undying effort to improve your blood glucose control, because it will maximize fat loss and help you get shredded a lot healthier, quicker, and more effectively than trying to do it with a hyperglycemia. The third reason is lack of accountability and support. Your environment is everything. So the people that you hang around with, how many people with diabetes do you know that are interested in muscle building, fat loss, bodybuilding, getting ready for photo shoots? The answer's not many. How many people do you know that live with diabetes are actually interested in their health? Can you even say that about your healthcare team or your doctor? Would they share similar views about muscle building, fitness, exercise? 9 times out of 10, the answer to that will be no. The person living with diabetes nowadays has a very limited community of people that are into serious fitness and strength gains. So whenever I was growing up, I had very little people to ask questions to, I had very little people to learn from, and as a result of that, I had to do a lot of things by trial and error. However, a lot of people with diabetes don't ask questions, and they just get on with what they see in the typical muscle building, fat loss, bodybuilding magazines, and don't take into account their diabetes. They don't take into account all the special nutrition considerations, the special considerations with blood glucose control in and around training. So knowledge is absolutely paramount in allowing you to unlock your muscle building and fat loss potential. But how can you access that if you don't have an environment? So if you hang around with 3 or 4 people that have diabetes that aren't interested in fitness, that aren't interested in nutrition, you're more than likely going to become the next person that isn't interested. So as a result of that, I have developed an online community of people with diabetes that are absolutely passionate about muscle building, bodybuilding, and everything else in between. And this is a community where we will look at scientific research behind nutrition, behind training, behind nutrition, everything that you can imagine. And we collectively put that together into a monthly newsletter called the Diabetic Muscle Report. We also have an online community that is going to be open for group discussion, group questions, where everyone living with diabetes can ask their heart-wrenching questions on how to build muscle, how to lose fat, how to get ready for a bodybuilding stage, how to get ready for a photo shoot. These are all valid things that everyone else is doing, and people with diabetes are struggling to get the most out of their efforts because of the disease. And I don't want that. I come from a bodybuilding background where I was able to compete all over the world as a junior bodybuilder and achieve great levels of success in bodybuilding. And I was always told that I was never going to be able to do it. I was told by my healthcare team, I was told by my parents, I was told by my friends, I was told by my biology teacher in school, it's impossible with your condition, you're never going to be able to build muscle, you're never going to be able to get lean. And I did. Just go and look up on Google, go up and look on my website, go and look at the shape that I was able to get myself in. And that was through hours and hours and hours of self-experimentation, study, experience, with university knowledge, with hours in the gym, with asking mentors, asking people, and trying to puzzle things together from a diabetic perspective. So get yourself in a community with like-minded individuals. And as a result, you will see your knowledge grow. You will have accountability. You will be under pressure to conform. It's a great tool in allowing you to work much more effectively with all your bodybuilding, muscle building, and fat loss goals. So it's there, make use of it. So guys, thank you very much for listening to the video. I talk about all of these tips in my new book, The Diabetic Muscle and Fitness Guide. It is the #1 resource for people looking to build muscle and lose fat with diabetes. We cover everything from the science right through to the practical application of lifting weights, eating, diabetes medication, the whole lot. And with that, we also have a fantastic members website, so make sure you head over and sign up, diabeticmuscleandfitness.com. And just as a thank you for listening to this video, you can head over and grab your free diabetic fitness report, which is loaded with muscle building, fat loss, nutrition, and training knowledge gems that you can download straight to your inbox and take to the gym. Just simply hit your email address in, click download, and it will be sent directly to you.